Raiders! It's Raiders Fan Radio, a podcast by Raiders fans for Raiders fans who are the only fans that matter. That's right, Murf and Sonny from the Dago Dungeon. You got it right here, live.
Touchdown! Kenny Stabler goes all the way.
We miss you, we love you, and we'll see you in the Hall of Fame.
When you have great coaches, then after you have great coaches, you get great players. You have a great organization, and you tell them one thing. Just win, baby. Well, I love this team. I think this team can win.
Well, Al, I used to think the team could win too, till I watched last week's game against the Washington Redskins. But we'll get into that here in a little bit. Welcome to number 48. The Lionel Washington episode of Raiders Fan Radio. Lionel Washington, cornerback for the beloved Oakland Raiders, actually the LA Raiders, from 1987 to 1994. Welcome into Raiders Fan Radio. I'm your host, Sonny. With me in studio, as always, is my co-host, Murf. Murf, welcome back.
Well, thank you. And I guess you're welcoming back from my I was kind of cheating on you a little bit there, Sonny. Could you tell? I was getting...
I feel like I'm your second cell phone now.
I got a side piece, Sonny. You know, I spent a little time over with the guys at the Fandom Podcast Network and their fantastic football show called The End Zone. Great guys, Kyle and Kevin, and enjoyed talking a little bit of Raider and NFL football over there. So appreciate them having me. And look them up, man. They do great stuff. Fandom Podcast Network.
Good stuff. Murph, interesting week. Rough week if you're a Raiders fan. Rough week if you're a football fan. Rough week if you're just an American citizen. It's been an interesting time, so we'll get into a little bit of all that. Jam-packed show. We got an interview with the only guy who's ever taken a Raiders flag into space. Mr. Jose Hernandez joins us. We got voicemails. We got 3 reasons why the Raiders are going to beat the Broncos. We got Murph's 3 reasons why the Broncos could beat the Raiders. Murph, how'd you get stuck with that one? And we got Murph's black hole of the internet. All that's coming at you. But first, we need to hear from Uncle Mosh.
Hey, boys and girls, this is Uncle Mosh. That's right. Somebody actually claims Sonny and Murf. These two. Check them out on their website, RaidersFanRadio.com. You can friend them on Facebook at Raiders Fan Radio, or you can like their fan page at Raiders Fan Radio Podcast. Hey, I don't tweet. I don't even know how to use a Twitter, but they do. You can tweet them at Raiders Fan Radio. Call them. Leave a voicemail if you want. Go old school. 909-345-3346. That's 909-345-3346. Hey, do this. Please subscribe and rate Raiders Fan Radio on iTunes. You can listen to the show on all podcast services like Stitcher, TuneIn, Podcast Addict, and many, many more. Okay, am I done? Did I say all the stuff I was supposed to say? All right, I'm out of here.
All right, Murph, before we jump into the game that made me feel like David after he went to the dentist, and I sat there going, is this real life over and over and over again? Let's go ahead and let's jump into the Sea of Fans mailbag and see what our lovely listeners called in and left us this week.
There he is, fading, looking. He's under the gun. He's caught, he throws. It is. Oh, he caught it.
Sonny, as we dive into the Sea of Fans mailbag this week, we're going to do these in order of severity. So not in order of quality, but in order of severity because, as you know, there's a high profile topic and a relatively sensitive topic going on in the NFL. And so our last message is about that. So I'll save that to the end. But so first off, let's start off with, again, the less severe, and that is Jeff in Nashville.
Sonny, Murf. Hey, it's Jeff, Titans fan from a couple weeks ago. Just driving around in Middle Tennessee selling tires, listening to Raider Fan Radio. Why would a Titans fan be listening to Raiders Fan Radio? Well, I like you guys, so I'm going to listen to you. Hey, just wanted to thank you for the interview again a couple weeks ago. Put me on the show and having me up at the tailgate, man, had a ball. And, man, it was fun even though the Titans didn't come out with a win, but after watching that Jets game, hey, Titans looked pretty good, only losing by 10. Personally, I had a big fantasy day last week against the Jets. Had Crabtree on my team and had me dancing like beast mode on the sideline, man. Huge point. But, hey, just wanted to thank you guys again. Good luck against the Redskins. Tighten up and just win, baby, or whatever the heck you guys say. See ya.
Getting love from a Titans fan. That's got to be a new one, huh?
Yeah, that's pretty cool stuff, man. Jeff's a good guy, and you know, I think he took it all in stride, and so I'm glad that he's got Michael Crabtree on his fantasy team to help him out. Sonny, does that, you know, we don't really play a lot of fantasy football. I'm on one team left, but, you know, when I really was into fantasy football a lot, I refused to have certain players on my team just because I didn't ever want to be tainted watching a football game, you know, by having a Kareem Hunt or Jamal Charles or Tyreek Hill or whatever. I don't want to root for Phillip Rivers. I don't want to, you know what I mean? Like, I don't even want that, even the smallest, teeniest, tiniest thought to creep into my head of, oh, well, yeah, but that's okay because he's on my fantasy team. Heck no. So, I mean, it's a little different between the Raiders and Titans, but still, what do you think about that?
In Madden, in fantasy football, in Madden Ultimate Team, I will never, ever have a Charger, a Broncos, or a Chiefs on my team. I think 2 years ago, we were playing Mutt, and I forget which Broncos receiver on my team. And it was fun, like, you know, I think it was Demaryius Thomas. And I was, you know, throwing up long touchdown passes and stuff, but I just felt so disgusting by it, you know? Just, I guess it'd be like getting a lady of the night. Like, you're going to do it, but you just feel disgusting afterwards, you know? And so ever since then, I've sworn off having a player from a hated team on my team and stuff. I don't do it no more, Murph. I just don't do it.
Well, speaking of hated teams, let's go on down there to San Diego, but hear from one of the good guys, and that is Johnny in San Diego.
What's up, boys? Johnny in San Diego. First off, I'm honored to be a made man and be a clone that is calling in consistently. I love this show, man. First off, Derek Carr. You know, I could almost predict that he's going to have one boneheaded play when the game is the biggest. This guy needs to hit a punching bag before the game starts. You know, something about Mary style. He needs to get this thing. He needs to cool down, relax, and play the game, man. Number 2, Thompson, number 25. Please, if the guy is on the field, put somebody on him. How does the Raiders defensive coaches not key on this guy? That would have been a perfect situation where you would have Carl Joseph and maybe Luani. You know, as soon as 25 gets on the field, you put Luani in there. You take Reggie Nelson's slow ass out of there, and you put Luani in there and just track him. And then number 3, Todd Downey. I swear to God, Olawale was on a milk carton yesterday because he was nowhere to be found. How do you not put that guy, you know, in the I formation, you know, and run it down their throats on the 5-yard line? We got beast mode for a reason. Put the fullback there, put beast mode behind him, and run that ball down their throats. The offensive line was getting smacked. So you needed that. You needed the offensive line to run towards them and push people away and get after these guys. We got punked. We were feeling ourselves a little bit. You know, it's a wake-up call early in the season. You know, I'm glad it happened early in the season. So now you get past this and you move forward. You know what I mean? Love my Raiders. They stunk up the joint yesterday, but let's move forward. I'm out. Peace.
Thank you, Johnny and SD, the former home of the third most hated team by Raiders fans, the Chargers. He makes a couple good points, Murph. You ever watch Sergio Garcia golf?
Yes, it's like the slowest thing ever.
Yeah, and you watch what he does with his feet, how he just adjusts his feet over and over and over and over again. Carr had a case of happy feet when he first got in the league. It's since gotten better, but he's still like so juiced and so amped for the games when they first start. Do you think that was a problem on Sunday, like Johnny indicated?
I think so, man. Carr does not do a good job of showing his coolness and calmness. You know, you can tell when he's tense. You know, and it's definitely hit at times, and it's been really evident at times in his young career. But we've kind of seen that start to subside. But it's still there, and it was certainly there against Washington. You know, I remember back to when we went to the Sunday night game against the Broncos last year in November, and I remember us, you know, watching warm-ups going, he's out there throwing 80-mile-an-hour fastballs in warm-ups. Like, chill out, Dave. Like, or Derek, excuse me. Look at me. Look at that. Huh? How is that? How is that, right?
You're not a real fan.
I'm not a real fan. But it was like, you know, chill out, you know, Derek, like look, we know you're amped. It's Sunday Night Football, but relax. Now, he ended up having a great game that night. And so did a lot of other members of the Raiders, and none of them had a good night this time on Sunday Night Football. But yeah, I think that tenseness there, that tension, whatever the word is, I think that was certainly there, man. Don't you? I mean, it's tangible with him. He doesn't hide it. He's not Joe Cool.
No, it's the reason we love him. But it's also can be detrimental. And I think there was a whole lot more reasons why we lost the game against the Redskins than simply Derek Sergio Garcia Carr. That was Derek Murf. That was Derek coming out there, happy feet and stuff like that. And we'll get into that in a little bit. But, Johnny, appreciate you calling in again. We can't say he's a clone because I'd be ripping off Rome. We're not about that. We would call you part of the retorts, but we haven't launched that show yet. But we're getting ready to launch a show called the Raiders Retort after the games on Sunday. So we could call you a retort, Johnny. But for now, we'll just call you a made man. And maybe, Murph, the criteria to being a made man is you got to call and leave at least 3 voicemails, and then you become a made man. What do you say?
I think that sounds good. And if that's the criteria, then we have our second made man here on Raiders Fan Radio. We're checking in with old Splatterhead.
Hey, what's up, guys? It's Chuck McCann. Time for a little Splatterhead rant. I hope you guys can hear me. I'm walking down Park Avenue right now. I'm just past NFL headquarters. No, you can give them the finger. But what can I say about Sunday? You know what they need to do? Take all the footage, walk out onto the field, dig a big hole, and bury it, because nobody's going to learn anything from that crap. It was an awful showing. We got to put it behind us. Now my rant. The league-wide protests. It's almost as bad as the move online. People are freaking out, yelling at each other, insulting each other, calling each other names, and it's disturbing to see. I don't like getting political, but politics is in football now, and there's really no way we can avoid it. The conversations are going to come up. I say this. I served my country. Pretty much everybody in my family served. Aunts, uncles, father, stepfather, both my grandfathers. My son's currently serving now. And everybody that served, we all have our own opinions. But we took an oath to defend the Constitution. And part of that means defending the right to free speech and the right for people to do what it takes nonviolently to have their grievances heard. And I think the best way that Americans can honor those of us who did serve and say thank you without, thank you for your service, which is appreciated, but the best way they can do it is to exercise their constitutional rights. And I think these guys have every right to stand up and show that, so what if they make millions of dollars? That's not the point. I look at it this way. Sports and entertainment are one of the few places in this country where black people actually have a voice. When they stand up and they want to have their voices heard and they have serious grievances that need to be addressed, it's nobody else's place to suddenly say, hey, shut up. My take, again, I don't want to see it every game just because I think it does cause a little bit of a distraction. My Raiders all sat down. I supported that. Downside, I think they took it too far because they sat down during the game, too. That's the only part that really pisses me off. Hey, Splatterhead rant part 2. I didn't want to end on a negative note. Let's go get those donkeys, man. We really got to show up. This team's got to play like this team can play. I think we will. We're all disappointed from what we saw on Sunday, but let's hope these guys get out there, and we're going to know. We're going to know early in this game if that was just a fluke or if something's falling apart. I don't believe something's falling apart, but like I said, we got to wait till Sunday to see. And anyway, I look forward to actually talking to you guys again soon. Go Raiders.
Thank you, Chuck, for that beautiful articulated voicemail. Every time he calls in, he's a very articulate gentleman, especially for being the lead frontman for a punk rock rockabilly band. Murf, thousand avenues we could go with Chuck's eloquent rant there, but I think he said a lot of things that are true and spot on. And the biggest thing is the Raiders kneeled down before the game and never got up for the game. And we'll talk about that here in a bit when we recap the Raiders-Redskins game. But anything else from Chuck's voicemail there, Murph, before we officially make him a made man?
I think that, he put it very eloquently, as you mentioned, and I think that he comes from a very reputable place, being that he's, served and put his life on the line for our country and our freedoms, and so is his family, and there's not a simple way to address this. It's such a diverse topic that there's not really like a one way to just like make a statement and wrap it up. And I think that is what probably we all fall victim to mostly on something like this, is that it's not singular. Racism sucks. Yep. And so does kneeling for the flag. So does the president dipping his toe in and making insulting comments. There's a lot of things that just suck about this. There's not like this, silver bullet solution that's going to solve all of our problems. There's so many negative things. And I think that, if anything, the best thing that I heard stated this week came from Bob Costas on CNN. And he said the shame in all of this, and I'm paraphrasing, but the shame in all of this is that it makes it singular. And that we make patriotism just strictly about maybe the military or just about the song. And it's not that. There's a lot of different ways to be a patriot. There's a lot of different ways to show your pride in being a United States citizen, and whether that's being a police officer or a firefighter or a teacher, or what you do in helping America's youth and fighting their addictions, and there's a million different ways to serve and to be a patriot in our country, and to drill it down into one thing. I think that's unfair to all of us and to all of everybody that's involved. So I'm hoping that, while we all can appreciate what the message is, and I think that absolutely the players have every right to do what they're doing, I hope that we can all in somehow, some way find unity in this, and a lot of times it's got to get worse before it can get better. So maybe now let's get unified on some of this stuff, and now let's take action, and now let's work towards common goals. And you know what, Sonny? And let's all go back towards what I think you said way back when. Let's all just love on each other, man. Let's all love on one another, and that helps, and that fosters growth. Like, let's just be kind to one another, and that's where the positivity and the change will come. You want to enact change? Love on your fellow man. That's all I got.
Yeah, I think the thing that annoys me the most about it is all we're talking about is the kneel down. No one's talking about why they're kneeling down. And all that gets covered is 200 players this week, 9 players, last week. Colin Kaepernick, the Steelers guy. All the media is covering is the kneel down and what the teams are doing, because that's what gets ratings. Trump in Alabama went off because that was going to get him the loudest cheer, because he was playing the crowd. Until we can move past the actual protest and look at what they're actually protesting, this issue is not going to get resolved, and it's going to remain to be more than it's just such a strange time right now in the NFL. And I don't think we're going to understand. This is what Dan Patrick said yesterday, and I got to agree with him. I don't think we're going to fully grasp what Kaepernick started and what's going on right now until maybe 20, 30 years down the road when we see how this all shakes out. But I'll continue to say it doesn't matter what race you are, what gender you are. Love trumps hate. Love trumps evil. Love trumps everything. And that's not a pun on Trump's name. There's a great book written by some pretty smart Hebrews back in the day, and it said at the end of the day, there's faith, hope, and love, and the greatest of these is love. And so until we can all start operating with that mantra, and you heard it from a punk rock rockabilly guy, right, who served his country, right? It just comes down to respect and love. And until we can move past the actual protest and find out and work towards the issues of what they're protesting, we're not going to go anywhere and stuff like that. So, every player has their right to use their platform as they wish. And also we have the right to either watch and be entertained or not watch and go do something else. And so anybody who's complaining about it, vote with your thumbs, like you always say. Turn off the TV. Go do something else. But if you're going to watch, then you're watching. You're enabling it. But here's what Barkley said, too, on the Dan Patrick Show. He said, if we stopped watching, if on a Sunday, if half of the NFL fans all of a sudden turned off their TVs and didn't tune in and the network ratings dropped, how many protests do you think there'd be the next week, Murph?
Probably very little.
There'd be very little, right?
Yeah.
Be very little, And the Cowboys did it, as much as we hate the Cowboys for fandom, they did this very respectfully. They all knelt down together, linked arms with service members before the national anthem. Then once the national anthem hit, then they, stood up and paid their respects. So, I don't want to go into it because we've heard everybody talk about it. Bob Costas said it great. Dan Patrick had a great take on it. There's a lot of great takes on it. Don't get your take from social media. Social media is king of the first thought, wrong thought, but now it gives you a place to put your first thought, wrong thought. So stay off social media when you're looking for answers for that stuff. Tune into the guys who are level-headed and even-keeled, and we'll all hopefully we move past it. But it's taken a long time, and we'll see where it shakes out. But yes, until then, let's love one another and love Trump's all and stuff. And let's also make Chuck Splatterhead McCann our second made man.
All right, you know why we're here. So if you got any doubts or reservations, now is the time to say so. No one will think any less of you, because once you enter this family, there's no getting out.
The thing that made Jimmy so happy that morning was that this was the day that Tommy was being made. Jimmy was so excited, you'd think he was being made. Jimmy and I could never be made because we had Irish blood. It didn't even matter that my mother was Sicilian. See, it's the highest honor they can give you. It means you belong to a family and a crew. It means that nobody can f*** around with you. It also means you could f*** around with anybody just as long as they aren't also a member.
Hey, Raiders fans, check this out. Raiders Fan Radio has got an app. I don't know what that means, but you do, because you're listening to this on a computer or something like that. Anyway, go to the Apple Store. Apple Store?
Apple Play Store?
Apple, nah.
No, Google Play.
Apple
has an App Store. Google
App Store. You can get it at the Apple Store or the App Store or whatever that is. You can, if you got an Android, isn't that like a robot? You can go to Google Play Store. They got show links, they got downloads, they got all kinds of really cool stuff. Hey, if you can't figure it out, give it to a teenager. They know how to work these phones better than you do.
All right. Thank you for that lovely message about our app, Uncle Tron. Murph, earlier this week, you sat down with the one and only man who has ever brought a Raiders flag into outer space, which actually I'm wondering how many other fan bases have actually had one of their flags brought into space. That's kind of an interesting case study there. So you sat down with Mr. Jose Hernandez for a great interview. He's an author, astronaut, aviator, and a staunch Raiders fan. And we'll play that interview for you right now.
All right, Raider Nation, he is an accomplished author, an aviator, an astronaut, and, of course, a huge Raiders fan. We are honored to welcome in Jose Hernandez to Raiders Fan Radio. Welcome, Jose.
Thank you, Murf. Pleasure to be here. Thanks for the invitation.
Absolutely. This is something that we've been looking forward to for quite a while. We first were drawn to your story by reading about it on Raiders.com about how you took a Raiders flag into space and flew it inside the International Space Station, which is such a really cool story. But before we get to that, for those that are unfamiliar with your story, from where you started to that point, tell us a little bit about your background. In your book, it's a great read. There's a lot of stories of perseverance, faith, hard work. Tell a little bit about yourself. Tell Raider Nation a little about you.
Sure, Murf. Well, first of all, again, thank you for the invitation to be here on Raiders Fan Radio. And yeah, my story is I like to look at it as a true American story. Because I'm first generation American here. My parents are from Mexico, and when I grew up here in the Central Valley of California, working. My family was a migrant farm working family where we basically traveled up and down California 9 months out of the year, following the harvest, starting in Southern California, ending up here in Northern California. And then we would go back to my parents' hometown, Mexico. Only reason why I was born here was because I was born during the harvest months. I have brothers and sisters born in Mexico because they were born during the winter. But anyway, as we grew up, my parents decided to stay in one place so we can get a good education. And Stockton was chosen, our last stop, to be where we would end up staying ultimately. And that's when our education started to get traction. And when I was 10 years old, I had the fortune of being able to watch the very last Apollo mission, and that was 1972, watching Gene Cernan walk on the moon. And I tell you, you can picture a 10-year-old boy watching a black and white TV, holding on to a rabbit ear antenna to improve reception. That was me. And I just got hooked on it, Murph, and I said, that's what I want to be. I want to be an astronaut. And the rest, as you can say, is history, because I started working my butt off and knew I had to go to college, knew I had to go to graduate school, knew I had to get a job related to the aerospace industry. And then I just kept trying and trying. And myself, just like the Raiders, we persevere. We don't let, failure is not an option, and we just want to win, baby. And I just got rejected 11 straight times. It wasn't until the 12th time that I finally got selected. And so I think the Raiders and I can relate a lot.
In your book is fantastic, by the way. In Raider Nation, if you get a chance, check it out. It's called Reaching for the Stars. It's available on Amazon. And the idea of that perseverance and that hard work and that long-term success, I think it's neat the way that you kind of paralleled it to your dad's journey early on when he was a young man. I think it sets up the rest of the story really, really, really well. And I want to ask you about, you really did above and beyond, it seems, to earn your way onto obviously working at NASA and becoming an engineer there and then earning your way onto, what do you call it, the roster, I guess?
Yeah. Being selected as part of an astronaut class, huh?
Thank you, yes. And so you make it up all the way to that point, and then the day of your launch, the day you're having the realization of your dream, they call off the mission, like literally seconds before you're supposed to take off. How did that feel when you feel like you were so close to realizing your dream, and then it just all of a sudden it kind of got put on hold, and it kind of puts you in a holding pattern?
Well, yeah, the unfortunate part was it was bad weather, and if you've got lightning within a 25-mile radius of a launch, you screw up the mission. And like you said, if you could imagine, there's a crew of 7 of us. We were all dressed up in our flight suits and helmets, strapped into the shuttle, and we reached a 9-minute hold. And at that point is when they decided to scrub the mission. So we were within minutes of launching, and they said, "Well, it's not going to happen today, guys." And so you got to get out of there again, undress, and you got to do the whole thing again over. But you know what? I waited 12 years to get selected, and it was another 5 years on the training side to be part of the mission. So I had waited a total of 17 years since I started applying. And if you look at it, it was actually about 35 years since that dream was conceived as a 10-year-old. So I figured, I could wait another couple of days. Wasn't a big deal for me.
Well, let's talk a little bit about your Raider fandom. Tell us about where that came from. Obviously, you grew up in the Central Valley of California, so you're close proximity to Oakland, to the Coliseum, and to the Raiders. So tell us a little bit about where your Oakland Raider fandom was formed and how that's been a part of your life.
Well, ever since I was a kid again, about that age I remember the Raiders when, it was in the days of Kenny Stabler, the Snake. And I was always a Raider fan, and then Jim Plunkett also made a big impression on me, and so I've always been a Raider through the bad times and through the good times. I'm not a bandwagon kind of guy. We're 2-0 right now, so it may seem like I'm a bandwagon kind of guy, but I trust me, I'm not. I've always rooted for the Raiders, and so that has always been my team.
Well, when you took that Raider flag into space, it was in 2009, and that was kind of right in the middle of our downturn. Yeah. So no, I don't think anybody would accuse you of being bandwagon.
Yeah, exactly. That was a funny story there. If you don't mind, I'll tell you that story.
Please.
How it happened. When you train for an astronaut, you get selected and you train for 2 years. You're basically an astronaut candidate. So you got to learn how to fly jets. You got to learn how to work on the space shuttle, on the International Space Station. So you train for 2 years. And once you train, you take your written exams, oral exams, you do flight simulations. You got to pass all that. Then you're eligible for flight assignment. But while you're waiting for your turn, you take on a technical assignment. And my technical assignment was called Astronaut Support Personnel. And what astronaut support personnel do is they go about 2 weeks before a launch to Kennedy Space Center, and we prep the inside of the vehicle. All the instrumentation you calibrate, communication systems, get everything ready, the flight deck ready for the crew to get in. And the last thing I do is I strap them into their seats. And unfortunately, my face is the last one they see before we close the hatch, and then they blast off into space. When they come back home, my face is the first one they see because we open up the hatch and we unbuckle them and get them out of there as soon as possible. And so I did about 2 or 3 years of that, and then I got assigned to my own mission. And so I leave my technical field and I start training for 2 years for a 14-day mission to the International Space Station aboard Space Shuttle Discovery, and the day comes for launch, right? Well, when the day comes for launch, you're only allowed to take about 10 things, and they can't weigh much, and they have to be smaller than kind of like a little earring box kind of thing. So you're very limited what you can take as what you take. And what I took obviously were mine and my wife's wedding rings, some crucifix for my kids and stuff like that. So we can say, hey, they were flown in space kind of thing, right? And but then I said, hey, I want to take something that's meaningful to me as well. And I said, I want to take the Raider flag with me. Wouldn't it be cool for me to be floating up in space holding the flag? I just figured that would be a cool picture. I said, no one can accuse me of not being a Raider fan then. And so, but the dilemma is, how am I going to get it? Because I already reached my maximum 10 items and it doesn't fit in the thing. So because I was working as part of the astronaut support personnel, I already knew the guys that we work with to get the vehicle ready. And so we kind of did a contraband thing. I told my guys that I used to work with, I said, hey, guys, I got this problem. I said, I want to fly this flag. I don't have room for it. How can we do that? And they said, you know what? Put it in a big envelope in front of your room the night before launch, and we'll make sure it gets in your saddlebag on your side bag where all your manuals are. I said, okay, I'll do that. And so I did that, and lo and behold, when I was up in space, I looked in my saddlebag, and there was that envelope. Pulled out the flag and got my hero shot, with the International Space Station on the background, Earth, and then holding the flag there. And so that's how we flew the flag. And so as soon as I got back, I then sent an email to the Raider Organization Public Affairs Office, and I sent a copy of the picture. And I said, hey, I would love to donate this flag to the Raider organization. I just got back from space. I want to give it to you guys. And I hit return. I kid you not, about 25 seconds later, the phone rings. And it's someone from the Raider organization. They say, yes, we would love to have the flag. We want to invite you over for a game, and you can present it and all this and all that. And I said, well, wait, first, I got to make sure it's okay with the lawyers at NASA and all that, because, we can't take free stuff unless it's something that makes sense, and the lawyers have to sign off on it. So being NASA and all. So then I contacted the lawyers. They said, hey, this is great. This is good publicity for NASA. Go ahead and do it. And so they flew me over. And coincidentally, it was a Jets game. The team we just played yesterday. This weekend.
Yeah.
The team we just played this weekend, which I think we beat them 45-20. It was a good game. I know I enjoyed it.
Yes, sir.
But I remember we flew over there, and they flew me there. And before the game was gonna start, I was to go in the 50-yard line, and I had the flag. I mounted it in a nice frame and said this flag flew 214 times around the world, 5.4 million miles, given by the crew of STS-128, specifically Astronaut Jose Hernandez, to the Raider organization. And I was supposed to give it to Al Davis, but Al Davis was feeling a little under the weather. So I think I gave it to Jim Otto, is the one who I gave it to in the 50-yard. But if you could imagine, they had the picture of the flag that I had sent to them, and they put it on the big jumbotron as I presented the frame to Jim Otto, and the crowd just went crazy. They couldn't believe it, because there I was in my blue flight suit, handing the flag over to Jim Otto Raider organization, and the picture was up on the jumbotron. It was a great. And then they, of course, took me up to the skybox where the owner's at and all that, and of course I think we lost something like about 45-3.
I think that was the game where the Jets were eating hot dogs on the sideline.
It was. We got our butts kicked. I think Jim Otto was so embarrassed. He said we should have brought you to another game, an easier game. But we stunk that year, right? So I understood it. But and that's the story. That's the story of the flag. So it's somewhere. I'm hoping it's somewhere within the Raider organization in the offices, business offices over there, hung up with my picture there. So
that's a fantastic story, and the picture is great. As you mentioned, you see the space station in the background, the flags just floating there in front of you. How does that happen? I'm curious about that. It's not like snapping a selfie in front of a stadium, right? There's got to be a lot to be able to orchestrate that, to take that picture. Is there a lot more that goes into it than maybe what we realize?
Not really. We, one of the courses we take, we learn how to be good photographers. So we take photography lessons, and we have the cameras, and so we're always constantly taking pictures of the experiments we're doing. We're doing Earth observation, taking pictures out of the outside. So taking pictures, that was kind of like I wanted to do it before my commander saw it. So I did it real quickly. I unfolded it, took it out, and asked my buddy quickly, take the picture before the commander comes. I'll get myself in trouble. And so we took the picture, I folded it back up and put it back in my saddlebag, and didn't take it out again.
That in true Raider fashion. That is fantastic.
Exactly. Contraband.
That is fantastic. Jose, again, thank you so much for joining us here on the show. Before we let you go, I wanted to ask you about a couple of things. Is that one, I know that you work a lot with, you have a foundation, of course, and then also you're working a lot with the relief efforts that have been going on. As a former NASA, obviously employee and engineer and astronaut, you have a lot of connections to the city of Houston and to the state of Florida, and also to Mexico, where obviously they're dealing with the aftermath of the earthquake and the devastation that has brought. Tell us a little bit about some of the ways that Raider Nation can get involved. How can we help? How can we contribute? What are some things, some folks that you're working with that you could point us towards?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, as you pointed out, Murf, Hurricanes Harvey and Irma, respectively in Houston and in Texas and Florida, wreaked havoc, and most recently Maria in Puerto Rico. And then of course, a few days ago, the earthquake in Mexico City. We've had our shares of disasters here in North America, as a result of that, I have a foundation. My foundation is dedicated to, here in the Central Valley, is dedicated to doing STEM outreach, science, technology, engineering, and math. And so we reach out to the kids, much like how football players reach out to kids about sports and aspiring to be football players. I do the same thing, but I do it on the science side, and I want them to aspire to be astronauts, scientists, mathematicians, and that sort of thing. So we have this foundation, great foundation, 18-member volunteer board that raises funds, and we have programs out here in the Central Valley to get these kids interested, including summer programs at University of Pacific here in Stockton, California. But because of these events, recent events, we felt we needed to do something else and expand it a little bit. So we have in my website, astrojh.org, we have a button there to where you can give specifically. I think it takes you to a GoFundMe page that specifically is for the hurricane victims and the earthquake victims. I travel a lot to Mexico City. And I travel a lot to Houston as well. I teamed up with Mattress Mac from Houston, where any money I give him, he's going to match it and give gift certificates where they would buy mattresses and furniture that's needed as a result of flood damage to the people that need it. And so we're raising funds for that. I started off the funds with giving $1,000 of my own, and so we're looking at growing it. We just came out with it a little late. We keep coming out with it, but I think better late than never in terms of raising funds and helping people that truly need it because of these natural disasters.
Well, that's awesome. I think it's admirable not only what you're doing, but it's been I think it's been a nice thing to witness the way that people have reacted to this and the way that the fundraising has gone on, whether that be obviously J.J. Watt, the football.
Yeah, he's done a tremendous job. Yeah, absolutely. J.J. Watt's been great, and he came out with it early on, and kudos to him for coming out real early and got it done. And, he's raised millions, so my hat's off to him.
So before we let you go, Jose, I did want to ask you about, we always ask our guests to give a message to Raider Nation. There's been a lot of, a little bit of strife within the fan community, with obviously with the pending move, with the Raiders moving to Las Vegas. Yeah. I'm from San Jose, California. You're from the Central Valley. My co-host Sonny, he's from San Jose as well. And growing up in the Bay Area, the Raiders were part of our life growing up, and it is a part of the life for so many. And now they're leaving. And so what would you say to the Raider fan base out there?
Hey, once you're part of the Raider Nation, you're always part of the Raider Nation. Remember, they left us to go to L.A., and they came back. We survived that. I still rooted for the Raiders when they were in L.A. You guys got to look at the glass being half full, not half empty, guys. I mean, they're moving to Vegas. I mean, what better excuse do you have to spend a weekend in Vegas? Is you catch a Raider game, you have your wife catch some shows, and you do a little gambling. I mean, it's great. I think it's going to be a great, especially for us, the type of Raider fans that we are. I think it's going to be a win-win situation for everybody. So look at the glass as half full, not half empty, guys. We'll be traveling to Vegas more often.
That's awesome. I think we agree with you wholeheartedly. What better place, right?
Exactly.
To go and enjoy a football game, the entertainment capital of the world.
Yeah, if they have to move somewhere, hey, Vegas is the best place they can move to.
Well, good deal. Well, again, thank you so much, Jose, for joining us here on Raiders Fan Radio. I can't tell you how appreciative we are of your time, and your story, again, is inspiring. It's a great read, Raider Nation. I encourage you to check out Jose's foundation. Look at astrojh.org. Please direct everything back to there. And again, yeah, thank you, Jose. We really do appreciate you joining us.
Yeah, and if they're interested in reading my whole story, like you said, Murf, the book is on Amazon. It's called Reaching for the Stars, and yours truly, Jose Hernandez, is the author. And it gives my whole story there, including a recipe of reaching your goals. There's a simple 5-ingredient recipe that will help you reach whatever goal you want to reach.
Fantastic. Well, do you want to leave us with that?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a very simple. It's the same recipe my dad gave me when I wanted to be an astronaut. He sat me down on the kitchen table and said, "You want to be an astronaut?" He said, "You got to follow these 5 steps. Just define what you want to be when you grow up. Recognize how far you are from that goal. Draw yourself a roadmap so you know how to get there. Prepare and go to school because you got to go to the university for what you want to do. And then he says, that same work ethic you put out picking cucumbers and tomatoes in the summers, he pointed to my books on the kitchen table and said, you put it here. He said, mix that up, and that's the recipe to succeed. 5 ingredients. I add the 6th one, which is perseverance, which is what me and the Raiders have, and that is never, ever, ever give up on yourselves. And because NASA rejected me 11 times, it wasn't until the 12th try that I finally got selected. So there you go. 6 ingredients to succeed.
Awesome, Jose. Well, thank you again. Appreciate your time today, and we'll look forward to talking to you again soon.
All right. Thank you very much, Murf. I really appreciate it.
All right, there we go, Raider Nation. That was my interview with Jose Hernandez. Man, I'm telling you, Sonny, I was really excited to do that interview, and I don't usually get nervous doing this stuff anymore, but I was a little nervous talking to him. I mean, you know, the guy he's kind of a big deal. I mean, the guy's been to space. You know what I mean? Like the guy.
That's pretty awesome, dude.
It's pretty freaking awesome, man. And you know, there's some cool, like if you go online, the name of their mission was STS-128. And you can type in STS-128 into Google, and it has about a 10-minute HD video of the launch. And like you watch this stuff, and just like it's amazing the man-made power that we're able to generate to launch a craft into space. It's just unreal when you see that stuff. And so I just have an amazing amount of respect for the amount of engineering and the level of engineering and the technology and everything that goes into something like that. It's just fascinating to me. And then to talk to a guy who's completely humble, completely level-headed, down to earth. You know what I mean? And he's a Raider fan. It was really cool. And I mentioned his book in the interview, and I meant it. I mean, it's very inspiring. He literally lived the American dream, and to hear that, and especially frankly now in the time where we're having these, you know, discussions about race, and we're having these discussions about social inequity and all that, to hear stories like what Jose's is and about his family is freaking awesome. And I almost wish that our interview would have been a week later, because I would have asked him a lot of questions about what was going on today, because I think that he would have an incredibly relevant and well-founded take on it. And so if we ever get a chance to talk to Jose again, I will definitely ask him about that. But just hearing about it and hearing his lighthearted approach to things, and especially about being a diehard Raider fan, man, it was really, really cool. And so we're really thankful that he joined us here on Raiders Fan Radio. And yeah, who knows, one day we'll maybe get a chance to catch up with him again.
Most distinguished guest yet, Murf?
Certainly. I think so. Distinguished, accomplished, well-educated. Yeah.
Now, this isn't a knock against our good buddies, you know, Scott and Jimmy and Chuck and everybody, but we got a freaking astronaut in the show.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah. Like, yeah, no, not a knock. I mean, we've had some amazing guests. We've had Violator. We've had some. Yeah, we've got some good guests. We've had some great. Yeah, you know what I mean? Ted Wynn is a very smart guy, but he ain't going to space. You know what I mean? Like it's amazing. It's just amazing. And so, so it was really, really cool to talk to somebody like that. So again, we're humbled to have had him, and it was neat. It was fun. It was really fun getting to know his story, and there's plenty out there, Raider Nation. If you want to see or learn or hear about Jose Hernandez, you don't have to go very deep down a Google search to find the guy. I mean, he's won Hispanic Heritage Awards. The guy's met presidents. You know, he's been on. He's got an honorary doctorate from University of Pacific. Also on that dais with him was Dave Brubeck and Clint Eastwood. The guy's been interviewed by Oprah. So I mean, it's like this. You know. I mean, here I am, right? Like, you know what I mean? And I'm like, Oh my gosh, like which one of these is not like the other? You know what I mean? But he's so amazingly accomplished. It's not hard to find stuff that involves our friend Jose Hernandez. And so again, that was super, super cool. And I look forward to more interviews like that, not only with him, but maybe one day, but folks like that in the future. That's kind of where we're hoping this thing goes with Raider Fan Radio, or Raiders Fan Radio even. We want to get some we'll call them high profile Raiders fans in on the show, except Tom Hanks. He's not invited.
He's not welcome. Wilson is, though. I wonder if Oprah is a Raiders fan.
Well, she's from Tennessee, so she's actually from Nashville, so if we were going to get her, probably should have got her before the. I mean, she can't be busy, right? That whole 60-minute show and stuff. What's she doing nowadays?
No. But the fact that you interviewed Jose, who's been interviewed by Oprah, according to Kevin Bacon's 6 Degrees of Separation, we're in with Oprah.
We're 1 degree from Oprah. And I hate the fact that you weren't there, by the way. As much as I enjoyed interviewing Jose, it was a bummer not having my cohort, man. My partner in crime needed to be there, man. So hopefully that doesn't happen again.
Hey, you did a great job doing it by yourself, and I'm proud of you. I'm really proud of you. You ventured out on your own and did the interview by yourself, and thanks, it turned out really well. So appreciate that you were doing that. Appreciate Jose Hernandez once again coming on the show. Check him out on the internet. Just type in Jose Hernandez. I'm sure a Google search won't pop up for 2 of the most popular names in Hispanic culture. But author, astronaut, aviator, Raiders fan, first guy to take a Raiders flag into space, and living the American dream. And it was awesome. Great interview.
Thank you. And real quick, and I forgot to mention this, and I shouldn't have. Go to his website. Go to the go to his foundation's website. I don't have it written down in front of me. Shame on me. It's what we just mentioned in the interview. But go to that foundation, contribute to the Irma Fund, contribute to the Harvey Fund, contribute to the relief that's going on down in Mexico for the earthquake. All of those 3 amazing causes that Jose has turned his foundation towards. Go out there, support him, Raider Nation, with your funds, and please do that because it's a very, very important thing. And he didn't ask for me to cover that. I brought that up on our own accord, knowing what was going on in the world. He wanted to just come on and talk about being a Raider fan. I brought that up and pointed the interview towards that, and I'm going to point you all towards that now. So go out there and give because people need, and that's one way that we can show our support. Scratch a check.
Good stuff. All right, coming back after the break, we will recap the Raiders, actually the Redskins versus the JV football team over this weekend on Sunday, and we'll get to that here in a little seconds.
We have a go for main engine start. And we have main engine start. 2, 1. Booster ignition and liftoff of Discovery.
Hello, I'm astronaut Jose Hernandez, and you're listening to Sonny and Murf on Raiders Fan Radio.
Ooh, nice. New audio hit. Well, Murf, it seemed like the Raiders' heads were in outer space on Sunday when they I like that. That was good.
Well done.
Yeah. When they took on the Washington Redskins, and although one lady I work with refers to them as the Washington Native Americans, it's okay.
There you go. Yeah.
But I was coming back from a baseball game. I was on the train. I was watching the game via free or through Verizon NFL Mobile, which is awesome if you have Verizon. But opening play. I mean, where do you begin? Where do you end? Oof. It's just this was unlike a team we've seen from the Raiders probably since 2015, right? Because they didn't have one of these games last year. They had some moments. Even the game against Denver and against Houston, we didn't look as flat or as like we shouldn't even be playing in the same game or league with the other team. Like we were held to 128 yards. Supposedly one of the most potent offenses in the league, one of the most dangerous passing attacks and running attacks. 2 weeks ago or last week, we're talking about all the weapons we have, how we put up 45 on the Jets. We're making fun of Zach Brown for coming at us and stuff. And then just not even a goose egg, a goose oval, right? Like what the heck happened? And I thought Ray Asperia from Raider Ramble wrote a really good article this week. It's called Who's Laughing Now? You can read it on the RaiderRamble.com by Ray Asperia. And he talked about Norman, and he talked about Swearinger, and he talked about Zach Brown. They're laughing their freaking faces off right now at us, right? Did you see what DJ Swearinger did on social media afterwards? Posted a video on his Instagram referencing the hit that he laid on Marshawn Lynch in the third quarter, about 9:49 left, when it was 21-0. And he just states the following: I eat Skittles too. I'm going to show you how to dance. Better come correct when 36 is in that alley, Jack. Oh, he ain't eat enough Skittles, huh? Give that man some Skittles. Just ripping Marshawn Lynch, right? Then he posts another picture of him standing over Amari Cooper. Amari Cooper's bent over on the ground, and it says, this fool said he was going to go for 200 last night. What'd he say that for? Respect it or check it. I mean, just punking the Raiders. And what did he say about Crabtree as well, right? He said, what did he say about, oh no, that was Norman. Then Norman goes off on Crabtree and says Sherm was right. Ain't going to say he's sorry, but I don't think he's sorry. He sucked, to be honest with you. You don't come out here and do that extra stuff, man. We don't play that out here. Then he goes on for Coop. Whatever that young cat said, Coop, go and take it back. Crabtree, I have nothing to say to you. Yes, I may be cover 2, but I'm cover 1, 2. I'm cover 1, cover 2, cover 3, cover 4. All the ingredients make a perfect attack. We do all the extra stuff. When you come out on the field, you're going to see about us.
Yikes.
I mean, and it didn't stop there, right?
Throw in the towel, man.
Whew. This wasn't a loss. This was a humiliation. This was a national embarrassment. As good as the game was last year that we were at again versus Denver on that Sunday night, that electric stadium where we came in, and it was kind of like the announcement, like the Raiders are legit. That was the battle for first place. I believe we were both 6-0 at the time, and we won. We smacked them. Murray had, I think, 3 touchdowns in the game. As big as a statement that was to propel us to like relevancy, this, I believe, was as big of a statement to take us out of relevancy. You heard all week long after last couple of days. It seems like it's been forever, right? You've heard primetime, right? Primetime and LaDainian Tomlinson. We crowned the Raiders too soon. We gave them too much credit. And then I also heard this line of talk earlier this week, which you talked about briefly. The Patriots came out and got torched by the Chiefs. And then everybody made the comparisons. Don't worry, they did this a couple years ago. They came out and get worked. They lost to Buffalo last year. They end up winning the Super Bowl. Patriots will be okay. And people have said the same thing about the Raiders. Oh, the Patriots lost. They're fine. The Raiders lose. They'll be fine. But there's a problem with that, Murph. The Raiders don't have several Super Bowl victories over the last umpteen years. The Raiders don't have a history of bouncing back from hard losses and dominating teams and going to this. The Raiders don't have a pedigree. They don't have a standard. They don't have a bar that they've set that people will know they can get there. We're still trying to prove we can be that team and get there. And this loss on a nationally televised game, this is a bad, bad look for this team. On top of that, there were so many factors that go into it. It's on the East Coast. They didn't kick off till 8:30 p.m. their time. So what are they doing all day? They're sluggish. You have all the protest stuff going on. You have all the hype going on. You have Zach Brown before the game. And then rewind 3-4 months ago, we wanted to sign Zach Brown. We offered him, I think, a deal. He said kick rocks. So he's, scoring or whatever. He talks junk going into the game. Cooper talks some junk. And then we just go and don't even show up. It was embarrassing. There's no other way to describe it. Flat out embarrassing loss.
That was yes, I agree with everything you just said, and it's unfortunate, because I think that we have so much to look forward to with this football team, and I still think we do. An out-of-conference loss isn't the worst thing in the world, and if we go into Denver and smack them in the mouth and win next week, then keep pace with the Chiefs, then, this gets forgotten about real quick. I think what this did, though, is that it exposed the underbelly of the Raiders, and that is our, frankly, lack of maturity. As much as we sing the praises of Derek Carr and Khalil Mack and Rodney Hudson and all of the incredible leaders that are on our team, they don't have, as you mentioned, the championship pedigree nor the history in the league to be able to compartmentalize things on or off the field. And I think that's what showed. And so when we look at, you look at a Patriots team, or you look at, I don't know, pick another team that has long-term success, you're able to take adversity and put it in a box and stick it away and then move on to the next thing. And the Raiders are not able to do that yet. Derek Carr's not able to do that yet. He got in his own head with that first pass. You see that when you look at that interception, I think that it was a result of being challenged by the Redskins. I think that whether it was intentional or not, they were out of their comfort zone immediately. The idea of the Raiders and the go deep baby, those days are kind of over. Certainly not on play one. And I think that they were challenged by the Redskins defense to put the ball in the air, and they were told that they were going to be sorry if they did. And then they showed them. And when you look at that read, when you look at what Carr saw, Cooper was open. And if he throws a dart to him, it's a potential for a completion, but he floats it up there and it goes and gets picked off. Now Derek Carr is in Derek Carr's head. Prior to that, when it comes to the kneeling issue, the Raiders had chosen to stay off of the field for the national anthem. They were then told you have to be on the field for the national anthem, because if you're not, you're going to miss the coin toss. The timing of a Sunday night football game is different than a regular Sunday game. So not only would they risk not being on the field for the coin toss and forfeiting that, they would risk running a delay of game because of the way the timing works. So in the last seconds, literally, the Raiders had to decide what they were going to do. Well, when they're doing that, they're not thinking about football. And that is a problem. Everyone likes to throw the word distraction around, but I think in this case, it's a very valid thing to say that the Raiders don't have the mental maturity yet as a team to compartmentalize those things and put them away. Somebody brought up Vic Tafer, I believe, our friend of the show, Vic Tafer, mentioned, well, the Patriots took a knee too and it didn't affect them. Yes, because they have that ability to check out and to do something different. And that's where I think that whether it's those things that happened off or the things that happen on the field, or maybe it's the smack talk, maybe that, with guys like Josh Norman and Brown and Swearinger and all. I think that this is a huge opportunity for the Raiders to then learn from this and to move on and to develop that ability to attack the game with some more maturity, because that's what you have to do. They tell you never get too high, you never get too low. The only play to focus on is the next one, right? Like, how many times in how many sports have you heard that? But that's not what the Raiders did. And it was evident because, look, we're not X's and O's guys. We're not paid analysts. We're not smart football minds like Ted Wynn is, but I am enough of a fan and have watched enough football and enough Raider games in my life to know that team didn't get out schemed. We didn't get out X's and O'd. Maybe on certain plays, sure, but those were effort plays. Those were beating the man in front of you type plays. That's what beat the Raiders. And we came out flat, just flat. So look, again, opportunity to correct it. At a conference game is not the end of the world, but whatever it is, we've got to get it figured out, because, Sonny, as you mentioned, they kicked off at 8:30 Pacific time. We got 4 more of those coming. So whatever it is, Raiders, We got to get it figured out. We got to get it figured out quick. We're still a championship caliber football team. Now we just got to get over the mental hurdle of it so we can let the physical part of the game take over. And there's nobody that can hang with the Raiders should that happen.
The big question now, and, I don't want to spend too much time knocking them. Like we said last week, the Redskins, they're a professional football team, right? The 11 starters on defense and offense are only a handful of people relatively that have the job they have because they're the best at their position in the entire world. So, let's keep it in perspective. Let's bring it down a couple notches. Let's not freak out just yet. But there's an alarm ringing, right? The fire alarm has been rung. Now the big question is going to be what happens in Denver. What happens in Denver? That is the $1 million question. If we go in there and lay another egg, then I think there's cause for concern. If we go in there and play competitive and lose a close game, I'm okay with that because that shows that we picked ourselves back up. If we go, obviously we want them to go in there and win big, and hurt every player on the freaking team and John Elway somehow too. But, let's see how the Raiders respond. Let's not freak out just yet. This isn't college football, but this is a great loss if you think about it. It's a non-conference game. It's early in this season, and it's irrelevant to the Raiders making the playoffs outside of the fact of it's a loss in the column. It's not a conference game. It's not a division game. If we still handle our divisional opponents and the conference game, we'll be just fine. So I'm not freaking out just yet. This is a great loss, but that's going to be determined based on the Raiders' reaction going into Denver. The sad part about this loss is it came on the weekend of the great kneel down, if you will. There are rumors on Twitter of the offensive line being pissed off at Derek Carr for not standing with them, so they purposely let him get sacked several times. That, to me, is the most asinine thing I've ever heard in my life. And Kenichiwa Osimile spoke to that on Twitter and basically put a guy in his place because of it. There were several factors that went into the loss, but the point is they're young and they lost. And not even Marshawn Lynch, who was dancing up a storm last week, could save them from this. And this kind of shows you how football is, right? We all talk about any given Sunday. We all say that, but how many of us really realize that or like to live that out, right? Flashback 9 days ago, we're watching Marshawn Lynch dance on the sidelines. The Oakland fan base is ecstatic and electric, and we're trouncing the Jets like we should. Monday morning, we're walking into work, peacocking ourselves, right? Chest puffed up. What's up? What's up? What's up? Hey, Raiders did great. 7 days later, look what happens. So, not too high, not too low. We're focused on the Broncos. Let's see what the Raiders' response is. Now, a couple things, Murph. Last week, I brought up Amari Cooper. I said, this is my way too early affable take on is Amari Cooper a problem, and is Amari Cooper still our number one? He didn't do himself any favors against the Redskins. There was a big 3rd and 9 when the Raiders were still kind of in the game, wasn't that far away, right through his hands. He leads the league in drops. Not only does he lead the league in drop, he doubles second place of the league in drops as well. Is Amari Cooper a problem, and is it fixable?
Well, yeah, it's officially a problem. I mean, I think that it was it seemed like they got it fixed, or he got it fixed year 2, and then now it's back, and it's back with a vengeance. And listen, Crabtree, I don't know what the numbers are, but he dropped some key passes too, man. There was one in particular that, listen, he didn't catch the ball because he didn't want to get hit. And he got hit anyways, and that's the old adage, right, is that you're going to get hit one way or another, so you might as well catch the ball while you're doing it. But if his eyes didn't come off that ball and look down at that defender and him start to tighten up before he took a shot, then I don't know what I'm looking at, but it didn't look good at all. So yeah, it's a problem. I mean, there's a reason that guys like Denarius Moore aren't on the Raiders anymore, and that's because they couldn't freaking catch. Like, how many years did we go through guys that were, these amazing athletes and couldn't catch? Darius Hayward-Bay, ring a bell? And now it's like, come on, man. It's like I thought we were past it. And I think that was what also, just to kind of go back to the whole scheme of the game, I think that's what was so disheartening to us as Raider fans, is that we all thought we were over these kinds of games. After last year, like we thought, okay, those days are over. The days of the drops, the days of the lack of running game, the days of the, letting people get loose, in the secondary and take off for 70 yards and like all those things that used to crush our team on the regular. We thought we were past that. The bad quarterback play. No, they're all there again. So hopefully this is just a one-off. And like you said, hopefully it's never a good time to take a loss, but hopefully they get past this. But to go back to Cooper, it's. I think that here's what's concerning about it is that, again, to what I talked about the compartmentalization, I hope he doesn't get in his own head. I mean, this is not a physical problem at this point. Like, the guy can catch. We know he can catch. We've seen him do, Super Mario double jumps before, like a couple times. Like, we know he's got the athleticism and the ability to do it. Let's hope that he does not start getting into his own head and, goes all, Chuck Knobloch on us here. Or, I mean, it just, you know what I mean? I hope that that's not the case. And so, but listen, a winning cures all. A win in Denver cures everything. And we're going to get into some more game specific things, but the wide receivers are not going to be, I don't think, a reason that the Raiders will or won't win the game in Denver. So I don't think the pressure is on Coop and Crabtree necessarily going into this next game. So this is a good time. Get it together. Get it right. It's not going to be cold in Denver yet. This is a good time to go into Denver and get them hands straight.
Hands on the ball straight. I mean, it was just such a bad game. And I think you made a good point. I think what hurts the most is that you thought we were past this as Raiders fans. This was so eerily similar to the 13 years of just devastating losses like this, right? This is why the Raiders didn't have 5 primetime games forever. Is because when they did, they just stunk it up. And so coming off of last season, coming off the hope, coming off the hype of the first 2 games this year, there was just so much in the Raiders' sails, and they just laid a goose egg. And, sometimes it's good to get punched in the mouth. Sometimes it takes getting fired from a job to realize what your full potential was at your next job. And sometimes it takes breaking up with that one girl you fell in love with to only meet the girl of your dreams, the next day or next week,
Well, we just mentioned it, right? Things got to get worse before they can get better. So if this is the thing that kicks them in the ass, then okay, great. Better get kicked in the ass by the Redskins than by the Chiefs or by the Broncos or the Chargers, right?
Exactly. So let's just hope they bounce back. There's really nothing more to say about the game. I mean, they got punked bad, and we'll move on. And the big thing now is what's going to happen against the Broncos. So let's jump into our segment called 3 Reasons.
Hey, so this is Uncle Mosh, and apparently all you got to do to host a podcast is have a microphone, a garage, and a couple of Derek Carr jerseys. Ha! These 2 did it. You're listening to Raiders Fan Radio with Sonny and Murf.
I feel like I'm on Miami Vice.
a little Starsky and Hutch with Sonny and Murf.
All right, Murf, welcome to the segment called 3 Reasons. In this segment, we go over 3 reasons why the Raiders will beat the Donkeys. And then also one of us has the painstaking task of talking about why there's 3 reasons why the Donkeys, the opponent for that week, could beat the Raiders. Now, Murf, I'm a saved man. I've turned my life around, but I'm also very sinister. The schedule.
Schedule comes Sicilian, out. And they tend to go hand in hand.
Yeah. I am Sicilian, and one of the all-time greatest quotes from The Princess Bride, which celebrated, I think, its 30th anniversary yesterday on Monday or 25th.
Love that movie.
Was inconceivable. Never get into a battle of wits with the Sicilian when death is on the line, right?
There you go.
So in April, when the schedule was released, I had the idea of doing a 3 Reasons segment. But I plotted it out to where you would have the Broncos, and I would not have to talk about why the Broncos would beat my Raiders. But since everybody already knows you're not a Raiders fan, since you already dropped the Dave reference to Mr. Derek Carr, it'll be okay. So here we go. 3 reasons.
You Sicilians are also like elephants. You never forget anything, nor let anything go. Thanks a lot. I appreciate you uplifting and building up your co-host. Thanks a lot.
Yes.
Thanks for pointing out my mistakes, Sonny.
Yes, you need to go to a different podcast to get encouraged around here. Okay, here we go.
That's why this is how your subtle jealousy is starting to surface.
I'm Sicilian, damn it! All right, here we go. Okay, here we
His
go.
name is Kevin, and he pays attention to me.
3. He likes Star Wars. It wasn't my fault. Okay, here we go. 3 reasons why the Raiders will beat the Broncos, and then you'll battle back. So we'll go 1-1 here. First one.
Well, shouldn't I go first the way the Raiders go last? Can we at least do that?
Okay, that's a good point.
Let me go first. That way you can end with the
Go
Raiders.
ahead.
That's the way this needs to go. The visiting team needs to go first.
Yeah, I can get behind that.
All right. I sing the praises of Khalil Mack all the time, and I often mention about how he is a game wrecker and has the chance and the potential to hit a home run at any given time. The only other player in the league that has that ability is Von Miller, at least to the level of Khalil Mack. And some would argue that he's better, so whatever, comparable at a minimum. Von Miller has the chance to turn a football game around real quick, coming in with that stupid move that he does where he snatches the ball away from the quarterback. You look what he did to Cam Newton. And listen, Raider Nation, Cam Newton is bigger and stronger and faster than Derek Carr is. And if Von Miller gets around that corner and hurts Derek Carr's feelings, it's going to hurt all of our feelings, and hopefully that won't happen. But if it does, that is a way that the Broncos could possibly, maybe, might have a chance to win this football game.
It's a great point. The argument of who's better is irrelevant in this discussion. If Von Miller's number 2, okay, great. He's the second most deadliest man to rush your quarterback. And if Khalil Mack's number 1, that's all fine and dandy. But Von Miller is a wrecking crew. He's a one-man wrecking crew, and he can come in and ruin our day. And with the way the offensive line played last week, it's going to be interesting to see how they bounce back.
Yeah, if Ryan Kerrigan was a problem, Von Miller is going to wreck freaking shop.
I can't imagine, though, that the offensive line, the pride of the league that has awful offensive line play right now, people all over across the country talking about the lack of offensive line talent in the league coming out of the college and stuff like that. I can't imagine they're feeling too good about themselves. So, again, what's the bounce back going to be, right? You got punched in the mouth. Do you quiver and go to the corner, or do you step up and you punk Von Miller and you give him no pressures and no sacks in this game? It's an excellent point. And much as we hate the Broncos, Von Miller is a force to be reckoned with. The number 1 reason I have why the Raiders will beat the Broncos, it's very similar to every time when I talk about why the Raiders will beat a team. It's Derek Carr. He has the ball in his hand on every snap because we don't run the Wildcat. He is our leader vocally and on the field. And as a competitor, if one thing we know about Derek Carr from afar is we always hear how competitive he is. And when you make it to the highest level, when you want to play in front of 50,000 people every single weekend, you have a competitive edge about you that cannot take a loss last week lightly. It just can't happen. And this is his moment. He flaked. He threw a goose egg. It happens. He got distracted. Whatever the cause was against the Redskins, that's going to happen from time to time. What makes a man great and what makes a man a Hall of Famer and a potential Super Bowl winning quarterback is the way he can bounce back from tough losses the following week. If he goes in there and torches a darn good Denver defense, all will be put to rest, and he's getting the call from primetime. But if he goes in there and doesn't, we're going to have a tough time beating the Broncos. So the number 1 reason why I think the Raiders beat the Broncos is I got faith that Derek Carr is not going to take the Redskins' loss lightly, and he's going to come out not so much happy Sergio Garcia feet. He's going to come out calm and poised and kind of ready to go. You know what I'm saying? I think he's going to have the look in his eye of like, I cost the team the game last week on national television. This is a division rival. I think he's going to go in there and put the doubters to sleep, and I think he has an awesome game. Number 2, Murph, go ahead.
Well, that's awesome, and I hope you're right because this team goes the way Derek Carr goes. There's no doubt.
Yeah, exactly.
And when he's playing tight and he's playing down on himself and he's brooding and all that stuff that we saw him do, then the team is going to reflect that because he's our leader, and that's what leaders do is that they influence the actions and the attitudes and the of their team or their constituents or whatever. There's a really, really cool quote by a guy named Peter Drucker, and that is culture eats strategy for breakfast. And the whole concept behind that is that you can have all the technology, you can have all the plan, you can have all the everything in the world that you want. But if your culture does not have that of people that are willing, able to execute, then it doesn't matter what you come up with. You can come up with the fanciest offensive scheme in the world, but if you don't have the guys mentally prepared and able and locked in and ready to go execute, it doesn't matter what you do. And that's what we saw with Carr. And so hopefully that culture, and that's what we're building with the Raiders. Again, folks, this is still a newer thing for us. We're building a winning culture. We didn't have that for a long time. We all sing the praises of the Raiders and historically, and it's a beautiful thing. But the last 13 years have been really rough. And so we haven't had a winning culture, and we've had a terrible culture, frankly, some of the most dysfunctional culture in all of sports ever. So that's what we're still trying to overcome. And it starts with Derek Carr. So great point, Sonny. All right. Next up on my list for the second reason why the Broncos might have a chance to pull this thing off is that, some players I see in my Raider nightmares, LaDainian Tomlinson, Mike Anderson, Olandis Gary. Yeah, Google that guy.
Olandis Gary.
Yeah, right. And one of those guys is Jamal Charles. And, when Jamal Charles was out there on the market, I told you, I'm like, dude, I hope this guy, it'd be kind of fun if this was before the Marshawn thing, really. It'd be kind of fun if the Raiders got him. At a minimum, if they got him, then it would keep him from playing against us. Because the guy, he's just one of those guys that crushes the Raiders. And when you look at his career, he's played 12 games against the Raiders, really 10 of them because he only had like 5 combined attempts in the first couple games his rookie year. But since then, when you look at the averages, like in those 10 games, he's gone way over 500 yards on the ground. He's gone over 400 yards in the air. He's scored 6 touchdowns. I mean, okay, and this is including a game receiving where he got 195 yards on us. Anybody remember those 5 screen plays? Like, this guy he's one of those players. Marcus Peters, he's starting to become that guy. He's just one of those guys that's an absolute nightmare for the Raiders. And now he's playing for the Donkeys. And don't you think he's probably going to have a big game, and it's going to be up to us and our linebackers to stop this guy. Okay? This is hey, until the Raiders prove me wrong, I'm not backing off this dang inside middle linebacker issue. And until I see somebody like OB and whoever else come downhill and to take care of running backs and tight ends, they could possibly, the Raiders, be in for a long day when it comes to Jamal Charles. I hope I'm way wrong.
I hope you're wrong, too. I don't think Jamal Charles is the same Jamal Charles of yesteryear. I don't think he has that same quickness, that same agility. However, he's still able to play running back in the NFL. He's still fast, and he may not be top-tier fast, but he's still fast. And that'll be an interesting matchup. Marquell Lee plays better against the run than the pass, so maybe he has a good game. Maybe he steps up, and this is, maybe this is his coming out party, right? What better way to cement your role as the starting inside linebacker and to prove Reggie right and prove all the doubters wrong than to come out and have a huge game shutting down the run and shutting down a guy who's tormented the Raiders for years. Welcome to the team, Marquell Lee. Step up your game and do something big this week. You could earn infamy with the Raider fan base if he has a big game this week. Ironic, you chose Denver's running back as the reason that the Broncos could beat us, because I chose our running back, one Marshawn. He needs to eat some more Skittles Lynch. And here's the reason why. Hostile crowd, division game, on the road, stellar pass defense. How do you beat all three of those combinations, Murf?
You run the football.
You run the football. We need a 100-yard game from Marshawn Lynch. We need a 25-carry, 125-yard, 2-3 touchdown game from Marshawn Lynch. I don't think we have 16 of those to get out of Marshawn Lynch. I don't even know if we have 3 or 4 of those to get out of Marshawn Lynch. But we need one of them this week against Denver. We need a big game from our guy that can eat up clock, that can take away that Denver secondary, that can suck them up to hit play action over the top. We need Lynch to establish himself early to calm Derek down so that way Derek doesn't feel he has to do it all himself. We need the running game to stop Von Miller's passing or pass rush, right? I mean, everything. I think a lot of this game hinges on Lynch's ability to run the football. And this is different than just we need a good game from our running back, right? This is at Denver, division opponent, stellar defense, stellar pass rush. Our offense is coming off one of the worst performances in the last few years. If we can establish the run early and often and make it viable, make it a threat, take Denver out of their game plan, I think that's going to help out tremendously in this game.
I couldn't agree with you more. And so instead of elaborating on the point you just made, I'm going to go right into mine because they dovetail nicely into one another.
You just love to talk about Denver, don't you, Murf?
I sure do. And I'm going to love to talk about how the Raiders are going to beat them. And that is absolutely by running the football, because my third item on the list is secondary, and that Denver has the ability to make your offense one-dimensional. When you look at Chris Harris and Aqib Talib and Bradley Roby, those are 3 starting cornerbacks on any other team in the NFL. And when you have that kind of depth and that kind of quality at corner, it obviously negates your 1 and 2 wide receivers, but then it negates Cordero Patterson. It negates Seth Roberts. It negates Jared Cook. You know, you got Darian Stewart coming downhill from the safety spot. You know, this secondary, I mean, they fell off at the end of last year because the team really fell off. But when you look at these guys, I mean, you're talking about all world players, man, on this secondary. And yes, they are going to force the Raiders to run the football. And I think I'm with you lockstep. I think the entirety of this game for the Raiders comes down to their ability to run, and it's got to be Marshawn. Like, you're right. He doesn't have we didn't bring him in to run for 1,400 yards and all these grandiose ideas that people had when we brought him in. No, we need him to go on the road and beat the snot out of somebody for 80 tough yards and 2 touchdowns. Or like you said, get that 100-yard game. That's what we need. And listen, the big boys up front have got to help him out because they didn't help him out in the last game. And if they didn't do it against the Redskins, they're going to have a taller order against the Broncos, because the Broncos have a good front seven too. It's not just their secondary, but definitely the strength is in the secondary. So for the Broncos to maybe possibly quite have a little small, teeny tiny, minuscule chance to win this football game, it's going to be on the strength of their secondary. And now I'm going to go take a shower.
Wash your mouth. That was soap. You've been listening for 10 minutes.
It's disgusting. I hate this segment. I'll love it next week, though.
Yeah. All right.
When it's your turn in the barrel.
My third reason why I believe that the Raiders will beat the Donkeys on Sunday in Denver, which we're going to go to next year, is pride. You, as a man, there's an element of pride that you have for your family, for your faith, for whatever it is you do for a living, for whatever hobby you have. men have pride. And sometimes pride gets in the way, allows us to be a little grandiose. I'm not talking about arrogancy here. I'm not talking about that kind of pride. I'm talking about the pride that you do your job well. One thing my father always told me, he didn't teach me many great things, but the great things he did teach me was take pride in the work that you do. And no man makes it to the level of the NFL that the Raiders members are at without having a strong sense of pride and work ethic and pride in what they do. And this could be a disaster for the Broncos if the Raiders players and coaching staff handle it properly. Chuck on his voicemail stated we should throw away the game film. I think the exact opposite, Chuck. I think you play that game film all week long to the Raiders. I think Derek Carr watches that game film every single night to rile him up, to rile up Cooper, to rile up Crabtree, to rile up Khalil Mack, and go into this divisional game and just kick the snot out of the Broncos. If we do that, we are back in the fold and all is well. But again, it's not a matter of can they do it, it's if and will it happen.
DeadPiratesSports.com. Raider gear for our Raider Nation family. Huge selection of affordable, authentic Raider items and custom gear. Coolers, baby items. That's right, train them early, train them right. Baby items. Barbecue accessories. Who don't like barbecue? You know who don't like barbecue? 49er fans don't like barbecue because you can't barbecue alfalfa sprouts. Books, caftans. And as soon as we figure out what you do with the caftan, we'll let you know. Candles, flags, glasses, earrings, floor mats, hats, jerseys, kimonos, ponchos, helmets, cups, pendants, pet clothes, mugs, socks. Raiders socks. I got Raiders socks. Get you some Raiders socks. Temporary tattoos, tote bags, wall clocks, and towels. That's right, towels. You know why? Because we got an inbred cousin. I don't know if he's really in the family or not, but he's a Bronco fan, and he can dry his little red-headed tears. So check out DeadPiratesSports.com. Let them know you heard about him on Raiders Fan Radio and find all the Raider gear you could possibly want. That's DeadPiratesSports.com. Raider gear for our Raider Nation family. By Raiders fans, for Raiders fans, the only fans that matter.
Murf, every week we come to the final segment of our show. I'm always a little scared of what you got cooking up in that black hole of yours. You scour, you scour the internet.
I did have Mexican food for lunch today.
You stay awake late at night. Today at dinner I burped and I told my kids, I got a bear in my stomach. And they're like, ah! And they started going, rah! I got a bear in my tummy. It was pretty funny. Anyway. I'm scared of what you will release from your week-long scouring of the annals of the black hole of the internet. So go ahead, Murf. Lay it on us.
All right, Sonny. So this is Bronco week, right? This happens twice a year, and nothing fires up a Raider fan like Bronco week. And I thought it was interesting in going over some of the numbers. We're gonna get to the numbers in a minute, but how dominant the Raiders still are, even after this run of, mediocre at best football, and really pretty horrible football when you look at a lot of those years going back to 2003. We still own a majority of the wins and a majority of the stats as far as the coming out on top. But where this turned into a black hole of the internet was when I was looking at the history of the Raiders and the Broncos this week. I came across something that happened to the day 29 years ago on September 26th, 1988.
Murph's Black Hole of the Internet.
The journey that begins where everything ends.
On a Monday night in Mile High Stadium, linebacker Dave Ryan and the defending AFC champion Broncos defense set its sights on Raiders quarterback Jay Schroeder.
Swap it back, Geronimo!
Recently acquired from the Redskins, Schroeder got his first taste of the high country.
Here comes the blitz. There he goes. Sack. Dennis Smith. Yeah, Dennis!
Sonny, they once upon a time called Jay Schroeder a blonde that screws a whole football team because of the terrible play that he had for not only the Redskins, but for our Oakland Raiders. And on this day, September 26, 1988, it was no different in the first half. And the Raiders found themselves at a 24-0 deficit at the half, at which one Tony Dorsett scored 2 touchdowns. Do you remember that? Tony Dorsett actually played for the Broncos at the end of his career. Tony Dorsett, scored 2 touchdowns in the first half, and so the Raiders found themselves down 24-0. But then something happened in the beginning of the third quarter.
In the second half, the complexion of the game changed suddenly and dramatically.
Rolling to the right is Schroeder, throwing to an open man. Smith at the 35. Lot of room. Down to the 30, the 20. Racing to the 10. Breaks a tackle. Touchdown, Raiders!
That's right. The Raiders started to come back, and in fact, Sonny, they came so far back, they tied the game. And at 24-24, the Raiders got possession of the ball, and one Timmy Brown takes it to the house, and the Raiders committed a holding penalty. And so the kick came back. The kick never counted. But shortly after that, with the Raiders on defense, this did happen.
There was no emotional letdown on the part of the Raiders. They just kept coming.
Still looking upfield. Pressured back to the 30-yard line. Back to the 25. Gets a block. Throws a pass upfield. And it's intercepted at the 50. Brought back over the 40 and down to the Denver 31-yard line. Well, here's your football game right now. Snap, spot, kick. Raiders win. The Raiders win. One of the great victories in the history of the Silver and Black franchise.
And one of the most stunning defeats in the history of the Denver Broncos franchise.
One of the most stunning defeats in the history of the Broncos franchise 29 years ago today, as our beloved Oakland Raiders, or at that time Los Angeles Raiders, beat the Denver Broncos. Cool, huh?
Love it, love it, love it. What's the all-time record? The all-time series here is the Raiders 62, the Broncos 51, and they've tied twice. Tied twice.
That's right. Go ahead.
Okay, I was going to say they've played in the playoffs twice. Broncos won the first time in 1978, 20-17. The Raiders won the second time in 1994, 42-24. Biggest blowouts. You know what the biggest blowouts have ever been in? Broncos beat our beloved in 1962, 44-7. However, we trounced them in 1967, 51-0.
But then the most points scored also were that awesome day in Mile High. Darren McFadden had the game of his career, and we scored 59 and beat him 59-14.
That's 59-14, right? Yeah, that was a game. Oh, man, I remember that. That was like the lone highlight for the last 13 years.
Yeah. That gave us bragging rights again to Bronco fans because forever they owned us, you know?
Longest win streak, Broncos won 8 straight from 2011 to 2015, what you were just talking about. But the Raiders won 14 straight from 1965 to 1971. That's a 6-year. That's ownage.
Well, and if if you don't count the tie, because one of those ties happened in 64, if you don't count that tie, the Raiders actually won 17 in a row. So I mean, it was just
there you go.
Pure domination back in the day.
You know, big history. You know, I think as a whole, Bears, Packers, Cowboys, Niners, those are the big rivalries in the NFL. Raiders Broncos pretty intense. You know, we all know it because we're basically just inundated with it being Raiders fans and stuff. But this is a heated rivalry. These teams don't like each other. Now let's also remember this too. This is the first game post Crabtree Talib incident. You think Crabtree has a lot on his mind going into this game?
Well, you know he does, man. He's got to, right? And I don't know what it is that he
just laid a goose egg at the Redskins, and he's going to be facing against Talib again. I mean, sorry, but go ahead. You know, this is. I just thought about that. That's huge.
Yeah, and he's still been rocking that chain. So I don't know if Debo's going to snatch his chain again, but I mean, I don't know what's going to happen. But and there's something that Crabtree does. Look, he's not a real vocal guy off the field, but apparently between the lines, he's real vocal because these guys hate him. So I mean, look, he's one of ours, and I'll stick up for him. And you know, I ride or die with our Raiders no matter what.
Of course.
But, you know what I mean? But there's something that he's doing that's pissing everybody off, and they're coming after him. So yeah, so go back to that compartmentalization discussion. Whatever it is, Crabtree, you know, park it because we're going to need you. Couple other fun facts about the Raiders Donkeys. Can you name the different stadiums that the Raiders and Donkeys have played against each other?
Oh, that's a good one. Well, O.co.
Right.
Wait,
Well, let's just
all five of them in Oakland, or what?
Well, let's just say places, not names, because if we get into names, it's not, you know, there's Sports Authority Field and blah 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 Mile High. But just actual facilities. So like the two obvious ones, right? Oakland Coliseum and Mile High, right? Like, and we'll say the new Mile High, okay? Because that was a new facility. Yeah. So you have the 2 Mile High stadiums. Okay, so old Mile High and new Mile High, and then the Oakland
go ahead.
Okay, and then you have the Oakland Coliseum, and then after that you have what?
LA Coliseum.
Very good. Okay, now it gets tough.
I don't know. I mean, those are I guess. I don't know.
Well, one that was new to me, although I knew of this team.
Oh, I see where you're going. Okay.
Bears Stadium. The Denver Bears were a minor league baseball team that played in Denver. And apparently they, back in the day, we're talking, all these were going way back. So that's why I didn't expect you to know them. I didn't know them. But they played at Bears Stadium in Denver. They played at Kezar Stadium, which was in San Francisco. It's no longer there. But
Did they play that game on December 17th in 1960 on a Saturday?
There. Yeah.
Just
came to you. Just came to you. Then also Candlestick Park. All right. So the Raiders played until the Coliseum got done while they were waiting for the construction to be finished. They played games at Candlestick. And then there's also another place called Frank Ewell Field that was in Oakland. It says that they played there, but I can't find exact dates or times, so I'm not sure what happened there. But anyways, so there potentially could be one more. So anyway, so we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 if you go all the way down the list. And then here's my favorite fun facts. Super Bowl stats. All right. First off, all-time points scored against each other. Raiders win that one, 24-71 to 23-74. Overtime wins, Raiders win 5-3. But Super Bowl stats. This is funny. This is a new one to me, and you're going to love this. So the Raiders' all-time Super Bowl record is 3-2, right? That is a 600 winning percentage. The Donkeys all-time are 3-5 in Super Bowls with a winning percentage of 375. Yeah. Now, all-time points for the Raiders, 132 points for in Super Bowls with 114 points against. That gives them a positive in 5 games, excuse me. That gives them a positive 18 for point totals. Donkeys, points for 147 with 259 against. That gives them a negative 112 point total over 8 games. And so what would that equal to in an average score? Obviously, we know these teams would never play each other in the Super Bowl, but if they did, the Raiders' average game, they would win 26-22. The Broncos would lose 32-18. And there is not one single Broncos quarterback with a winning Super Bowl record. Elway is 2-3. Pepe is 1-1. Craig Morton is 0-1. Our beloved Oakland Raiders, although Gannon and LaMonica both have zeros in the win column, both also Plunkett and Stabler are a combined 3-0 to give us 2 guys with winning records in the Super Bowl. So suck it, donkeys.
And on that note, thanks for listening to episode number 48 the Lionel Washington episode of Raiders Fans Radio. Check us out, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Raiders Fan Radio. We're all over there. One of these days, we're going to get our post-game affable reaction show going, which is called the Raiders Retort. And then you guys can comment, talk to us on the Facebook Live there, and come get retorted with us after the game. Murph, I think I'm going to be around Sunday. You going to be around Sunday?
What's the matter? Oh, you were finished. Oh, well, allow me to retort.
I will be glad to. Yes, I will be around Sunday, and let's get retorted, Sonny.
Yeah, time to get retorted. We've been talking about it now for 3-4 weeks. So we need to get retorted up in here. So that'll be probably 20 minutes, 15 minutes after the game ends. We'll go live on Facebook. We'll make some announcements about it. We were going to do it a couple weeks ago, but somebody's computer wasn't up to par. I'm not going to say whose it was. Not me. And anyway,
okay, Captain Apple.
Okay, it was me.
All right, the last time you bought a new computer, Steve Jobs was still alive.
Dude, I've bought like
ouch. Was that rough? Was that harsh?
I've bought 3 new PCs and I've built them all together and I always sell them.
Probably do it on your iPhone
I like
nowadays.
Apple better.
You probably do it on your iPhone nowadays.
We probably should do that. Anyway, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for all the interactions on Facebook. Oh, one quick thing. Don't send me nudes on Facebook Messenger. My Sonny at Raiders Fan Radio Facebook thing. I opened it. I'm at work. I'm on work's Wi-Fi. Checking my messages, and all of a sudden there's a bunch of freaking nudes, dude. So I had to block and delete the guy. I'm not going to put him on blast, but why are you sending another guy nudes? Like, I'm a happily married man. Like, what are you, 16? Like, don't do that. Who does that, Murph? Give me a break, you know? Come on. So we love the interaction. We don't love the nudes. We're not that kind of guys. So, you know.
Save the smut, please. Don't send us smut. Yeah. Send us your Raider hot or affable takes, but don't send us the
Smut free since 03, huh? Come on now. Come on. It's ridiculous. Ridiculous. Anyway, outside of the smut and our messages, we love the interaction. We love, we all grieve together and we celebrate together. So hopefully we're celebrating next week after we kick the crap out of the Broncos. And it'll take a big foot. It'll take a huge foot. But I think we can kick in Elway's teeth as well. So here's to that.
Looking like an Andre the Giant type foot, man.
Yeah. Probably, hopefully a Shaq size.
Like a Shaq foot. Yeah.
Shaq foot. Hopefully nobody listens to the last few minutes of our podcast too. So,
smut and Shaq feet.
Yeah. There you go. That's why you tune in. That's why last band, best band's last band, best content's last content. Smut and Shaq feet. All right. Thanks for listening.
That was the name of my third album.
Yeah, there you go. All right. We're gonna get out of here. Raiders. What did we say? Raider Nation. Wherever. Forever.